New York City, 1989. For most, it's a city of ambition and light, but on its fringes, in the forgotten corners, it's a city of shadows. For a young woman living on those fringes, tonight is like any other, a battle for survival, a search for a paying client, a moment of hope that turns into a gamble. She steps into a stranger's car. The door closes, sealing her off from the world. The city lights blur into streaks as the car pulls away, and then darkness. She vanishes into the anonymous night, her story silenced, her face destined to become another photograph on a precinct wall. A face belonging to a ghost. The human mind holds infinite complexities and sometimes profound darkness. What shapes a monster? What drives their chilling compulsions? We seek the answers. This is Anatomy of a Predator. The story of the hunt for Joel Rifkin begins not on a dark city street, but here, on the manicured green of a golf course in Hopewell, New Jersey, in March 1989. On this peaceful morning, a golfer slices his ball into the woods along the 7th green and makes a horrifying discovery, one that rips a hole in the fabric of the ordinary world. Police arrive to find the severed head of a young woman in a paint can. She is Jane Doe number 1. For years, she will have no name, no story. She is only a collection of brutal facts. The autopsy report paints a grim forensic picture. The victim had blue eyes. She was in her 20s. But the most telling detail was what was missing. Her teeth had been removed after her death. This was not a random act of violence. This was a calculated act of erasure. The killer was not just trying to end a life. He was trying to prevent identification, to guarantee his victim remained a ghost. For 24 years, she would remain nameless. Only in 2013 would DNA finally give her an identity. Heidi Balch, also known as Susie to her friends and clients. A young woman who had vanished from New York City. She was the first known victim. And as police would eventually discover, 16 more women would follow her into oblivion. Their cases going cold almost instantly. Their disappearances barely registering in a city that had learned to look away. As the body count grew, a chilling methodology began to emerge, designed specifically to baffle law enforcement. Rifkin developed a ritual he called his patterns of 3. This wasn't just about hiding bodies, it was about creating chaos. He would dispose of his first 3 victims in water. A body found in a river suggests a certain type of killer, sending investigators down one path. But then, the next 3 victims would be sealed in oil drums and left in remote locations, suggesting a different profile entirely. The next left in random shallow graves. Each pattern of 3 created a completely separate investigative puzzle. It was a brilliant and sadistic strategy that ensured police departments in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania were hunting for 3 different men, while the one quiet man continued his work. To understand the predator, we must perform an autopsy on the man. Joel Rifkin was a lifelong outsider.
Adopted into a loving home, he was nevertheless a ghost in his own life, plagued by social awkwardness, relentless bullying, and academic failure. This wasn't just teasing, it was a daily education in humiliation and powerlessness. Every insult, every shove carved another groove of resentment into his psyche. The final fracture occurred in 1987. His father, a respected architect and his only real anchor to a feeling of normalcy, took his own life. With his father gone, Joel was emotionally untethered. As his landscaping business withered and his loneliness deepened, he turned to the one thing that gave him a feeling of absolute, intoxicating power. As Rifkin himself would later describe it, killing became his addiction. Each murder was a temporary fix for a lifetime of failure. A horrifying ritual where he, for the first time, was the one in control.
It was on June 24th, 1993. Tiffany Bresciani is the last one. None the wiser, she steps into his truck and into the final, horrifying hours of her life. After the murder, Joel Rifkin returned not to a hidden lair, but to his mother's home. And on this night, he brought the horror with him. While his unsuspecting mother slept just one floor above, the garage below was converted from a workshop into a tomb.
And then the most mundane and horrifying problem began: the logistics of evil. The first problem was the oppressive summer heat. The second was the smell, a sweet, sickly odor of decomposition that began to permeate everything. He tried to mask it, a futile attempt to hide the undeniable scent of death. For 4 days, the body of Tiffany Bresciani lay in that garage. 4 days of mounting heat, mounting odor, and the constant agitating presence of flies. The sanctuary had become a charnel house. The problem was becoming absolutely unbearable.
He couldn't stand it anymore. In a clumsy, desperate attempt to solve his logistical nightmare, he wrapped the body in a blue tarp, loaded it into his truck, and drove off into the darkness. But he could not escape the evidence. In the pre-dawn hours of June 28th, state troopers, thinking they were making a routine traffic stop, spotted his truck without a rear license plate. The chase was reckless, desperate, ending when he crashed into a utility pole. As the troopers approached the vehicle, they were hit by a wall of an overwhelming stench. The ghost had finally been caught.
In custody, Joel Rifkin did not resist. He confessed. He calmly led investigators on a tour of his personal graveyard. But it was in his house that they found the true anatomy of his evil. A collection of trophies. He kept his victims' driver's licenses, their jewelry, their library cards. These were not souvenirs of a conquest. They were artifacts of erasure. A driver's license is a symbol of freedom and identity. A piece of jewelry, a memory of a loved one. By taking them, he wasn't just collecting things. He was collecting the last physical proof of their existence, a final act of stealing their story from the world. His own words provide the most direct insight. Quote,
You lie to yourself. You deny that there's a family. You think of people as things. In that single sentence lies the entire anatomy of his evil, a complete and total dehumanization that allowed him to become one of New York's most prolific serial killers. Joel Rifkin was sentenced to 203 years to life in prison. But for the investigators and the families, the case is not truly closed. Many of his victims remain Jane Does, their names and stories erased by time and indifference. The hunt to identify them continues to this day. A quiet, persistent effort to give these women back the one thing Rifkin tried so hard to steal: their identity. The story of Joel Rifkin is a terrifying reminder of how easily the vulnerable can vanish into the cracks of our society. It's a dissection of a quiet man whose loneliness curdled into a monstrous addiction. His victims were not just killed, they were erased. And the hunt to restore their names is a battle we can all be a part of. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mind of a predator. If you found this episode thought-provoking, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Whose story should we explore next on Anatomy of a Predator? Monsters aren't born in the darkness. They are made in the quiet shadows of our world. By dragging their anatomy into the light, we learn their patterns, we honor their victims, and we take away the shadows where the next one might be hiding. Until our next case, stay vigilant, stay safe, and stay out of the shadows.